I think my greatest fear is that I will look back and have a bunch of what ifs, that I didn't do the things that I felt like I could have done. And so I think the way I manage it is when I have those realizations of, hey, I'm going to regret this if I don't do it, then that gives me, the conviction to go ahead and do it, even if I fail or fall on my face.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Raving Patients Podcast. As you know, I'm your host, Dr. Len Tao. Hope everybody's having a wonderful day, no matter where you're listening or watching this episode. I always want to thank my sponsors, both Dental Intelligence and the Doc Sites, for their continued support, and remind everybody about my event, Supercharge Your Dental Practice, September 26th and 27th in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, at Pier 66 Resort. Amazing brand new resort. It literally just opened about a month ago, so it's brand spanking new. You can go to superchargeyourdentalpractice.com and learn more about it. We have 13 amazing speakers, all about the business marketing side of one's practice. So it's not clinical, it's all about how to make more money. And who doesn't want to make more money? You can use the code RAVING, R-A-V-I-N-G, to save $100 on the already reduced Super Early Bird Special. Today's episode is called, Is AI Being Overhyped? My guest is Conner Ludlow from Annie, and we're going to be talking about things like what is AI, and is AI being overhyped, and what are some real practical use cases for AI that can make a difference in your dental practice. So things like that. So stay tuned for some of those discussions to take place in the next 30 plus minutes. Conner is the founder of Annie, where he is building AI employees for the dental front desk. First entering dental as the CTO of a nationwide dental call center, Conner's background as a software engineer, operational leader, and technology development has been pivotal in shaping the innovation services offered by Annie. So I'm going to have Conner join me now, but I want to let you know that I was so excited and so interested in this product. I called my former office and said, you need to start using this product, which they are currently doing it. Unfortunately, no longer practicing. I have not been able to obviously use it personally, but the office that I sold is using it, and I've seen it in action. It's an amazing product, and I think this is the future of front office help for dental practices. So please welcome Conner to the Raving Patients Podcast. Conner, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey, happy to be here. Pleasure.
I'm excited to dive right in, but can you start off, which I like all guests to do, kind of tell people what Annie is and how you help, or how it helps dental practices?
Yeah. I mean, well, it's really simple. Staffing is hard right now. It's expensive and it's time consuming. And Annie's goal is really to help with that. Our goal is not to replace humans, but to help, offices stretch their operational dollars and make sure that they have backup and help to never miss opportunities and make sure that they're capturing all of their revenue potential.
So let's dive right in, because AI is all over the industry. You have it in radiographs, you have it in, obviously, communications via phone, via chat, messaging services, responding to reviews. There is so much AI out there right now. AI creates videos. There's interesting photos they create, but AI is everywhere. So can you talk about, for those who are interested, what AI is, what it is, and where we expect things to go?
Yeah. No, I think so. You mentioned the podcast title here, and when we hop on things like this and we're talking about Annie, I think everybody's probably hearing about AI everywhere right now. And so we may have even already lost a couple of people because they're like, oh man, another, AI podcast, right? But I think that question of like, is AI overhyped right now is really interesting. And I think when you ask, what is it? That's a lot of why I think that's a fun topic and fun angle to come from, is because I do think that there's a lot of hype right now. And, I think breaking it down to answer your question, the way that we look at it is AI is a tool. And I think that, sometimes it doesn't always get pitched as a tool. It gets pitched more as a silver bullet. But at the end of the day, AI is really just a new tool that can help practices and business owners and everybody be more effective in their job.
No, I think that's great. And so talk to me about where you see the future of AI. Like, obviously, there's a lot of instances where it's being used now. What does the future look like for AI in the dental industry?
Yeah. Well, I think, again, the whole premise of this is AI overhyped. And I think that, so there's this guy that I've been reading a lot from recently. His name is Roy Amara. He was a researcher, a technology researcher. And he came up with this law that was called Amara's Law. And I don't actually know how big this is, but, I found it and I thought that it was really interesting. And the whole premise of his law is that we tend to overestimate the effect of a technology in the short run, and underestimate the effect of the technology in the long run. So it's kind of cheesy. Like he calls it this peak of inflated expectations. But his concept is that when a new technology comes out, we instantly go to the hype. We instantly go to what it's going to look like in the future. And sometimes we get ahead of ourselves a little bit there, and it, the expectation starts to maybe be a little bit more than where the technology is currently at. So to answer your question, I think that excitement, the buzz around AI that's kind of created this feeling of it maybe being overhyped is warranted. I think that there's going to be some incredible things that will come in coming years. But at the same time, I also think that it's important to look at where it is now and also realize, maybe some of the shortcomings, or some of the practical use cases that are actually usable versus the ones that might not quite be usable yet.
So do you have some examples of where you think there are shortcomings right now and where you think things will be? Because obviously it's AI, a lot of it's learning, and as it learns more, it does different things. So can you talk about some of the practical uses right now outside of this and where you see things going, in the future, or what you've heard being so involved in AI? You probably have heard a lot of things that are down the pike, to kind of get people excited about it.
Yeah. No, I think a good example, of where things are now versus where I think they're going to go. I think that when you hear about people talking about AI, a lot of the times they do talk about where it's going to go, right? You might have heard people talking about, oh, you're going to be able to run a one-person billion-dollar company, and all of your employees will be AI agents. Let's use software engineering as an example here, right? There's probably a lot of talk out there. If you read articles about AI use cases, there's a lot of people saying software engineers will be replaced by developers. And I'm a software engineer by trade, right? So this is why it comes to mind, for me first, just to kind of give a parallel. AI has been incredibly helpful for me to write code quicker than I've ever been able to write code before. There are certain aspects of things that we build, that are a little bit easier, and we can actually offload those to AI and it will build them and it will do a good job. Now, and I think that's where a lot of that future concept comes from, right? Is we could technically get AI to build us a website right now at Annie. If we wanted AI to generate a full website for us, it could. But, and this is where I think maybe the hype goes a little bit too far, when I say it could, the reason why I'm phrasing it that way is like when we've done this and we've looked at it, it's not a website that I'm going to deploy. It's not something that I'm going to go and actually publish to the actual web, because maybe it doesn't capture my brand fully. Maybe some of the pages don't work. And it's incredible that it can even get that far, but it's not ready to like fully push out. And so when we use it, again, this is where the tool comment comes from, is I can have it create that. I can have it create that, first version of a website, and then I can go in and I can finish it off, and I can, make sure that the corners are all well-rounded and that everything is actually good to go. But it still required me or one of my developers to do that. And I think that that's actually still a great thing. Like that's what I think kind of gets lost in the discourse around AI right now, is that people overhype it a ton, and then it doesn't live up to that hype, and then it's like, oh, well, this isn't usable or this doesn't work. And I think that's why I have so much beef with the hype sometimes, is because it almost overshadows the areas that it's really cool. Like, for example, I used software engineering, which might not be the most familiar thing, for all dentists, but let's use marketing as an example, and creating a blog or writing a blog article. If I'm a new practice and I want to increase my SEO, I might need to write blog articles, and I might want to get keywords into those blog articles to help out my website. I think sometimes AI gets pitched as you don't have to do the blog. AI is going to do the blog for you, right? But then people might say, oh, well, this blog is not any good. This doesn't represent me. I don't actually want to do this. It sounds like a robot. It has, things in it that are not even true. And that's where I think we miss the point a little bit, is like, sure, could it do that? Yes. But we're missing the point here that this is a tool, like the internet was a tool. And could I go to ChatGPT right now and say, hey, I'm a new dentist. I just opened a practice and I just need some ideas. I need some ideas for blog articles. It's going to do great at that. It's going to give you a list of blog articles. I could then go and say, hey, I want to do this specific blog article that you gave to me. What's an outline that I could use for this blog article? And it would give me an outline. I could then hand it over to whoever my content creator is, or if that's me, I could go and write the article using that outline. But I've saved so much time. And that's where I think sometimes we miss a little bit, is we don't realize that maybe the hype is a little bit crazy, but that doesn't mean that there aren't, practical use cases right now that we can do.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And even when I try to write stuff with AI, or I prompt it to do things for me, I use it as kind of a guide. I don't use everything that it says, because honestly, sometimes it's funny what it says, and it doesn't sound like how I would write things. So I'm not going to use it fully, but I use it as the guide, like you said. It's interesting. So there's a lot of AI out there, and I was just reading a post. I pulled it up as you were talking on Facebook. And somebody made a comment, because this was an AI tool that handles chat, and the person wrote that the AI agent sounds rude, but it's very good. Okay, and the person said, "We get all that all the time." They quoted, "It's purposeful. I can show you how to manipulate it and make her sweet as peach pie." So it's very interesting to hear that, because obviously it's not a human. It's using information given it to it, but someone said it sounded rude on in the conversation. So is that something you hear? Is that something that you're used to hearing? I'm just curious, because I was thinking of that as I read that article.
Yeah. No, it's really fun. It's definitely a different dynamic. Like, it's ironic that I talk about AI being overhyped so much, because I really do, in our job, we'll see times, that it handles conversations for practices, and we're like, wow, this was incredible. And, offices will sometimes come, and as we're training their Annie, their version of Annie, and they're giving us some of their scripts, or, telling us how they want it to handle a conversation, they turn out awesome. And so we have some of those type of things where, we see their script versus somebody else's script, and it ends up resulting in a really cool, personality, kind of like what you're talking about. Or, sometimes it's maybe, a little bit more rigid, like what you're saying, but it's definitely a thing. It's a very fun combo of kind of like tech and human, where you can control a lot of those aspects.
And it's funny, you mentioned prior in the conversation, you were talking about how you can tell it to create a website, and it creates a website, but the website isn't, you wouldn't deploy it, because it's not going to be as customized as a regular website that you build. So it's funny. I have an event that we did in Bermuda last year called Supercharge Your Dental Practice with Big Cases, and one of our speakers was Stuart Lacey. And Stuart Lacey is very big in AI, and he's based in Bermuda, so he spoke at my event. And he actually deployed stuff live, and he basically told it to create a website, and gave it some prompts. And like literally minutes later, you had a functional website. Obviously, you wouldn't deploy it, but it was functional at least. I think everybody's jaw dropped in the room as to what these capabilities were. Even with deep fakes and stuff it can do, it's kind of scary at some of the extent that stuff can be created using artificial intelligence.
Yeah. Have you ever cloned your voice with one of these systems?
So I do Riverside, the recording device that I use for podcasts. It has a little feature that I can put something in there, and it will take my voice from the AI, from the podcast, and it will have me narrate it. And it's funny, because I'm saying, as it's talking, I'm like, holy crap, that sounds like me. And then later on I go, wait, no, it doesn't. It kind of messed up somewhere. But that's really scary. It really is.
Oh, it's terrifying. I mean, I was talking with the guys from Pearl the other day. Awesome, great AI company. But we were talking about that specific thing right there. Of I've cloned my voice before. I've put in like funny scripts for it to say. I'll have it like I'll record my voice and send something funny to my girlfriend or whatever. And It's terrifying to think of what that could potentially be used for on the downside.
I agree with you 100%. 100%. So moving more towards the AI stuff. So is AI all about large language models? I think that's what LLMs is, large language models. And robots. Talk to me about what's the learning mechanisms behind that?
Yeah. No, I think that's a great question. So first things first, I think it would be good just to touch on what you said there about language models. I think that sometimes we say AI and it gets used as a blanket statement, but part of why I think it can be hard for people to hop into is it's like, what does that even mean? And so if we back up to end of 2023, ChatGPT comes out. I think most people hopefully have heard of ChatGPT at this point, but when you talk about an LLM or a language model, that's what ChatGPT is referring to. And the way that a language model works is, let's say that I told you like, hey, I'm going to recite a song and I just need you to finish the lyrics, right? Or maybe it's a nursery rhyme, like Jack and Jill went up the blank, like you would say hill, or Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall, right? And that's what these language models are doing, is they have, just like we as kids, read a bunch of books, or over years in school, you read a bunch of books, you see a bunch of content, your brain starts to associate things. That's sort of what an LLM or these language models are doing, is they've seen in YouTube videos, articles, they've seen Jack and Jill went up the hill so many times that it knows that, that's what comes next. So it's just ingested a ton of data and a ton of information. So hopefully that's kind of a quick run through of what a language model is. But back to your question, what I think is interesting is that we say AI, and a lot of the time, and I think it's because of ChatGPT, a lot of the time we're referring to ChatGPT or these language models, but it skips so many other, great technologies. Like I mentioned Pearl earlier, and their, second opinion software is awesome. Or you've got, image generating software. Going back to my blog example, if I need just a quick image that I want to throw up on a blog article and I don't really want to put a lot of effort into it, I can go to these AI image generators and have it generate a very, very personalized image to whatever my blog article is. And they look great. Like, that's the thing that I don't think people realize, is that you could go and say, create a dental office and decorate it with Valentine's Day decorations and make it very festive, and it would generate an image of a dental office decorated for Valentine's Day. And you could put that with a blog article rather than having to search, free free picture websites, or, take a picture yourself. And so there's a lot of aspects of AI that I think, we kind of lose just because we sometimes lump it all into that LLM category.
Interesting. It's funny. Sometimes I go to some of these image generators and I say, I want to create an AI of me speaking in front of a room. So I tell them that, and they make me Asian every single time. So, yeah. So I'm like, no, wrong. So that's not right. So it's really funny how it does that. So specifically in the dental industry, can you, we know about Pearl. Can you talk about some practical use cases that AI can make a difference in a practice now, without necessarily even having to go buy a software product like Pearl? And I'm a huge fan of Pearl, Overjet, all those AI products. But for someone that just wants to see how AI can help their practice, are there anything that they can do right now with AI in their office?
Oh, absolutely. There's probably a lot of great answers to that question. And I think my favorite is, even though this might sound cheesy and some people might have already done this, but really familiarizing yourself with ChatGPT, I think, is a very underrated tool, even though ChatGPT is very hyped. And I think that when I say that, it's not just going to ChatGPT and asking a basic question, but a couple things just to kind of recommend to people that I hopefully are practical. That example that I gave earlier of a blog article. Think of a business issue that you have right now, whether it's finance-based, people-based, marketing-based, clinical-based, whatever it might be, and ask ChatGPT. Like for me, let's use law as an example. Sometimes there are a lot of questions when it comes to talking with lawyers, and I don't know these answers, and maybe I feel like an idiot asking the lawyer. And so I'll go to ChatGPT and I'll just say, hey, give me a quick course on this aspect really quick. Just give me the background info so that when I go talk to my lawyer, I'm not paying for extra time and I'm not asking him stupid questions and can just get right to the point. So for a dentist or a practice owner or an office manager, just think of a business use case that you have, throw it into ChatGPT, see what its response is, and just kind of like use it almost as a learning tool. Like I think people that, grow up in this AI age, like, kids right now, they're going to learn completely different because you're going to have basically a customized tutor. And I think that the reason why I love this example is, one, you mentioned like something that you don't have to pay for, something that you don't have to sign up for. You can go create your little ChatGPT account. Worst case scenario, you could pay for the $20 a month version of it. And you could do that. You could have it basically be your personal tutor on a business area that you don't necessarily know a ton about. And it's going to be awesome. You'll be amazed at what you can do. They also just recently released their deep research tool, which if you haven't played with that, I highly recommend it. I am using it way more than I thought that I would. But the deep research tool, if you've used ChatGPT, it gives you an answer fairly quick, right? What deep research does is it's almost like a research assistant. Think that you had a personal assistant and you said, go search the web for an hour and cite all these sources and put together a presentation for me. ChatGPT's deep research tool will do all of that for you, and it doesn't take an hour. It takes maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes depending on the question you ask, but the results of it are incredible. So if you're doing market research, maybe you're thinking about buying a new practice. Those are all things that I think you would be very, very impressed if you ran through deep research, what it would come back to you for. So that's always my favorite answer of like, if you could turn around and do one thing tomorrow, if you haven't fully spent time really digging into ChatGPT, again, that might sound stupid because everybody's talked about ChatGPT, but I think it's incredibly useful even still.
Got it. No, that makes a lot of sense. Let's spend some time we have left. I want the people who are listening and viewing, I want them to learn more about what Annie does. So can you kind of give like a few minute spiel about, Annie itself, what the purpose of it for is, so people listening can say, well, hey, I think I need that for my practice.
Yeah, sure thing. As I mentioned before, Annie's in the business of hopefully helping you save some time and stretching your operational dollars and relieving some of the stress that comes from the difficulties with staffing. So when someone signs up for Annie, this is why we named it Annie, was we wanted it to feel, like an AI employee or an AI helper for your practice that helps automate away tedious tasks or things that are time consuming and repetitive. So we'll sit down with your practice. We're going to train Annie on your practice. So just like last time you hired an employee, you go through, you give it a bunch of information about your office, you do mock phone calls, you do some tests together. And that's what we do with Annie is we come in and we learn about your practice. We put that into our AI system, which creates your Annie. And you can name your Annie Steve. You could name your Annie Len. You can name it whatever you want. But we basically create this little AI employee for you. And right now we can answer website chats and we can handle inbound phone calls. And then we will be, releasing next month in March, outbound phone calls as well for ReCare.
Wow, I didn't know you're doing outbound phone calls for ReCare as well. That's pretty cool.
Yep.
Where do you see, and you just named what it does, where do you see applications for the future within Annie?
Yeah, so our goal is to kind of keep going along that theme of repetitive tasks, time-consuming tasks, and continue to help save time. I think the goal is to allow you to run your business. And, there's sometimes those tedious tasks, like just they get in the way and they can be, really time consuming and distract from the things, in front of you that are also really important. For example, checking out a patient. If you're checking out a patient and a phone call comes in, you have to choose between checking out that patient or missing your phone call or potentially telling one of them to kind of sit there and wait for you, right? And we don't necessarily want to replace your employee there. What we want to do is we just want to allow that employee to focus on whatever their most important task is in front of them. So they can keep checking out that patient while knowing that the phone call got handled by a system that they trust. And then that way you get the best of both worlds. And I think that's what's fun about AI is that when I talk about it being a tool or a new technology, I think that's what I'm referring to is this gives us a way to solve some of these staffing problems or staffing shortcomings in a way that we didn't have before, and in a way that I think is going to be really, really powerful of being able to augment your tasks away or automate your tasks and have it happen almost instantly without any work from you.
And you said something I was going to bring up. I was going to make it clear that this will not replace a full-time employee. It's a helper of that employee. So when you bring it into your office, you make sure you let the front desk know, or the person that's working the front desk, this is not to replace them. This is to make their job a little bit easier. I'm glad you said that, because I was going to say that as well. Because that's what the first inkling is. Well, you're getting someone to replace what I'm doing. No, you're not replacing an employee. It's just helping them make their job a little bit simpler.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely an optimist when it comes to technology. I know that that's a really big fear when it comes to AI, is what it does to jobs. But I think when we look over the course of history, new technology, even if it maybe reshuffles industries a little bit or reshuffles things, I feel like it almost always ends up being a net positive. And I think the deeper that we get into it, seeing offices that have that happen, right? It's not just the during hours phone calls. It's the phone call that comes in at 2 a.m. because somebody's having an emergency. And odds are you're not going to be able to answer that, even if you had the best front desk person in the world. And if you had the best front desk person in the world, you don't want to drive them away by telling them to stay up and answer a phone call at 2 a.m., right? So I think that there's a really, really good kind of overlap there between humans and AI that's going to be really fun in the long term.
So last question I have for you. I've heard through, again, Facebook, social media, from some of the groups, that there's been some, I don't say they lie, but false information provided, or they've messed up. And one of the situations I read was someone had an emergency, was after hours, and the AI agent told them to come to the office. The doctor would meet them, and the doctor wasn't going to meet them. So someone wrote a bad review because of that. That's how I heard about that. So is this something that's more common, will get better with time? Talk us about the shortcomings, let's say.
Yeah, I'll try not to get too nerdy there with that question, but I mean that's our job, right? That's our job, is to make sure that doesn't happen for you, so that we can take this technology and provide it in a way that's actually useful. I think that right there is what I'm talking about with the is AI overhyped. We could technically do a lot of stuff with AI that's going to be really, really cool in a demo. But then when it comes down to the everyday usage, when you do have emergencies happening at 1 a.m, you've got to make sure it's really locked down. And so that's our job. And that's why we kind of take a different approach when it comes to AI. Is we would hate to over deliver and, say that this is a silver bullet, it's going to handle everything and you don't have to worry about it and it's going to be perfect nonstop. We look at those type of things. We look at the way that the technology works. What you're referring to there is a term called hallucination.
Thanks.
And so these AI models, because of the way that they work, again, they're trying to predict what it should do. Sometimes that prediction can be wrong. And there's things that we can do on our side to minimize that or completely cut that out of the equation so that it doesn't happen. And when we set up somebody on Annie, that's a big reason why we say, hey, this is your assistant, this is your sidekick. Because we don't want to oversell it. We want to make sure that we go in and with our tech, we only roll out those areas that we know that we can reliably handle.
So if somebody wanted to try out Annie or see what it was like, and do you have a demo site or something that they can play around with it and test it out and check out how it answers the questions?
Yeah. So you can go to helloannie.com. We actually, you can sign up there on the website, and then you can schedule a time with us if you'd like. We recognize that this is, new. And so our approach when it comes to those demo phone calls is hopefully not overly salesy, but, we'll even kind of pull up the AI agent. We'll, pull up our customer portal so that you can see how you can customize it. And we're happy to walk through that with anybody that wants.
I was more so talking about them to test it out rather than reach out for a demo. We'll get the demo information afterwards. But is there something public that they can go to and just ask questions of the chat agent and stuff as well?
Yeah, I can get you some links. We've got a bunch of demos. We've also got some test sites, so I can get you some links that we can put in the show notes. And
we'll put it in the show notes. Exactly right. Okay. Conner, is there anything that we didn't cover that you wanted to cover? I think we covered most of it, but I wanted to check with you.
Yeah, no, I think that's plenty.
Okay, so awesome. So we're going to segue into the lightning round Q&A. Conner, just so you know, these are 8 to 10 business related questions. These need to be, fast lightning round stuff, no long drawn out. I don't need to hear a whole paragraph about stuff. So, but we'll get through 8 to 10 of them. Okay. So, first question here. Let's see. What do we got? What was the first thing that you wanted to be when you grew up?
An architect.
An architect.
Yes.
Okay. Who would you love to collaborate with in the industry, and what would you love to collaborate on?
Oh man, that's a hard one. There's a lot of good ones there. Hey, I'll say Len Tao, right here.
I appreciate that. What mindsets have helped make you successful?
I think just focusing on customers and focusing on kind of getting the job done.
Okay. What business-related book has inspired you the most, or the other way of asking is, what is your favorite book?
Yeah. So I will give an unconventional answer here. I have a hard time finishing a full book, but I love following people that I admire on X or Facebook or LinkedIn. More so, less to get the influencer side, but more so just to hear their thoughts and kind of their more personalized comments.
Got it. What profession do you think is the most undervalued today?
Oof. We'll say I think that people that understand language are going to be very well set up for a world of AI. So your English majors, your linguistics, things like that.
Okay. How do you distinguish yourself from your competitors?
Our focus is all around the customization. I think we go above and beyond of being able to make your Annie, and have it feel like an employee for you.
What kind of culture exists in your organization, and how did you establish it?
Same thing that I said earlier. It's all about the customers and all about making sure that we deliver. And that just kind of starts from the beginning of making sure that that's our focus.
Okay. Do you make a to-do list every day, weekly? When do you make one?
Every night for the day before.
Every night for the day before. Got it. If you had a chance to start over, what would you do differently?
I think a lot of my hindsight as 2020 moments are really around the things that truly matter. I think in the moment, it's a little bit harder to figure out your most important tasks. I think when they're done, it's easier to look back and say, that was the most important thing. And so if I was starting over, it would just be a lot of cutting out the fluff and focusing on what's most important.
Who is one person you love to have as a mentor?
I love the CEO of Anthropic. I relate to him a lot because I am a nerd and he comes across as very, very interested in the AI. I would love to be able to connect with him and hear his thoughts on all this AI stuff.
That's cool. Let's see what else we got here. What is your approach to marketing your business?
Our approach is really, we believe that we have a product that provides real value. And so far, we have not done a ton of marketing. It's all just come from word of mouth. And I think that's a testament to that. And so we would love to keep that going and just keep building a great product that speaks for itself.
We got 2 more questions here. What is your greatest fear and how do you manage it?
I think my greatest fear is that I will look back and have a bunch of what ifs, that I didn't do the things that I felt like I could have done. And so I think the way I manage it is when I have those realizations of, hey, I'm going to regret this if I don't do it, then that gives me, the conviction to go ahead and do it, even if I fail or fall on my face. Got
it. Last question. What is one subscription you can't live without? And it could be either business or personal. So basically the way this direction is, it's something you pay for on a monthly basis that either business or personal that you can't live without. You can't eliminate it.
First one that comes to mind is Spotify. And then second would probably be ChatGPT.
Got it. Great questions. Thank you for taking part in that. So Conner, people want to learn more about Annie. What's the best way to reach out? Website, contact information, and then if you want to offer a discount, how can they take advantage of the discount for the software?
Yeah, for sure. So we are doing a discount for any of the listeners here. I'll make sure that you get all the notes for those, but we're cutting our setup fee in half. We're offering a little discount off of the monthly dues as well. And anybody that wants to get involved, I kind of mentioned it earlier, but go to our website. It's helloannie.com. You can schedule a time to meet with us whenever works best for you, and we're happy to dive into any questions you have.
Got it. And should they just mention that they heard about us on the podcast?
Yep,
Heard
yep.
about
Just
you?
mention that you heard about us from Lin Tao, and we'll take care of you.
All right, perfect. This was great, Conner. Thank you so much for educating the audience on AI and where if it's overhyped and where things are going in the future, and some practical applications that a practice can use. Guys, if you like the episode, please like it, review us, share us. As I always say, please help promote it. If you think a colleague would benefit from it, please recommend it to them. If you think you would benefit from what Annie provides, please reach out to Conner and his team. And at Hello Annie is the website, so you can check it out. Remember about my sponsors, don't ignore them, both Dental Intelligence and the doc sites, for their support. And about my event, Supercharge Your Dental Practice, you can go to superchargeyourdentalpractice.com and use the code RAVING to save $100 on your registration. And I hope to see you there in South Florida. And as I end every single one of my episodes, remember, your reputation matters. Conner, thank you so much for joining me today, and we'll talk to everyone soon.
Thank you.